Hello and welcome to Operation Loremaster. This is a special episode that contains spoilers about the Mist of Pandaria expansion. If you're trying to remain spoiler-free for this expansion, if that's even possible, do not watch the rest of this episode. I had originally planned to talk about where I felt the expansions of World of Warcraft were going after Mist of Pandaria. Specifically, I felt that Mist should start to build the events that would ultimately become the Fourth War and put the war back in World of Warcraft, as Metzen expounded upon during the last BlizzCon. I wanted the final raid encounter of the 5th expansion to deal with Queen Azshara, but had the tier before that deal with a new kind of raid encounter, a faction-based raid encounter to bring an end to the Fourth War, in which Alliance players would invade Orgrimmar and force Garrosh to come to terms with the peace deal laid out by Thrall, while the Horde invaded Stormwind in order to make Varian accept the same terms. This would have brought some peace back to the two factions, so they could focus on the threat of Queen Azshara and finally entering a portal she had created to the Burning Legion homeworld during the 6th expansion. This, of course, was my interesting take on how the game's story could progress prior to hearing all the news coming out of the recent Mist of Pandaria press release. And well, it seems both the Horde and the Alliance will be going after Garrosh at the ends of Mist of Pandaria, which I assume will form some kind of peace between the Alliance and the Horde. I realize a great deal of players on both the Horde and the Alliance side will be happy about going after Garrosh because of the reputation he has. Mind you, Varian has the same kind of reputation. Additionally, I know what I'm about to say is going to be fairly unpopular amongst the players. But I don't want Garrosh to die. Hell, I don't even want him to get overthrown. Reading this news was one of those table-flipping moments, like when I found out the Zandalari were reforming the old Troll alliances to attack the Horde and Alliance. Now hear me out. Garrosh is not a bad person. Hot-headed and sometimes impatient, but his character has progressed in the overall storyline of WoW, and he was heading down the path of becoming a decent leader for the Horde. I realize a lot of Alliance players don't get to see it this way, but I played Horde from the end of Vanilla through the first raid cycle of Kata before coming back to the Alliance. I've seen Garrosh change as a person and as a character type. For the completely lore-free individuals, let's establish a little bit about what we know about Garrosh. Garrosh didn't live in Azeroth during the first 3 wars. His father, Grom Hellscream, was a very important member of the Horde, and it was Grom's sacrifice that finally freed the Horde of their bloodlust. Garrosh didn't know any of this about his father. He grew up in the shadow of a man who he thought had turned the Horde over to the control of the Burning Legion by drinking Mannoroth's blood. This ate at Garrosh, until Thrall came to the Outlands and informed Garrosh of Grom's fate. Garrosh starts to change as a character when he's finally able to be proud of his father, but he's always dogged by the fear of repeating his father's mistakes. It is also in the Outlands that Garrosh gets his first real taste of the Alliance. In his eyes, the Alliance is an invasionary force that has allied themselves with the Orcs' longtime enemies, the Draenei. So Garrosh has a fairly bad view of the Alliance. Additionally, there's a good chance that Garrosh was informed of some of the Alliance's seedier doings after the end of the Second War, such as the Orc internment camps. Thrall brings Garrosh back to Azeroth at the end of the invasion of the Outlands, and begins to rely on him as an advisor. Garrosh is still very young and brash at this time, especially when Garrosh and Thrall went to the Peace Summit in Theramore, which all went to shit. Varian accused Thrall of trying to have Grona Half-Orc assassinate Varian, which led Garrosh to think that the Alliance had planned the whole attack as a trap for Thrall and Garrosh. So Garrosh's first official meeting with the leaders of the Alliance went very poorly, through no real fault of either party, other than the natural hot-headedness of Garrosh and Varian. In the events leading up to the start of Wrath of the Lich King, Garrosh challenges Thrall's plan to send a scouting party to Northrend instead of an all-out invasion. Thrall goads Garrosh into a duel that Garrosh gets the upper hand in, before it is interrupted. From there, Garrosh is sent to Northrend to lead the invasion alongside Sourfang. It is during this time we really start to see Garrosh as a leader change. He often argues with Sourfang about plans in dealing with the Alliance, but he almost always defers to Sourfang's wisdom during this time. Garrosh made some poor choices for his subordinates, such as Krina and the Grizzly Hills, but overall he leads a successful campaign in Northrend. A lot of Alliance players will point to Garrosh as a bad leader, because of the fight he got into with Varian and Dalaran before the Siege of Ulduar. I'll remind people that that was a fight between 2 hot-headed individuals, and Varian looked no less like a douche. The most important event that happens to Garrosh during the invasion of Northrend is the death and conversion of Sourfang the Younger. Garrosh saw a man he had come to respect lose his son to war, and then ultimately had to lead the charge of forces to kill that undead son. This fundamentally changed Garrosh as a person, in my opinion. It was Garrosh's changing nature that led Thrall to appoint him as the new war chief in his absence. Bol'Jin tried to talk Thrall out of it, but Thrall stated that Garrosh is the kind of leader that the Horde needed at that time. Thrall knew, with the Theramore peace deal falling through, that the Horde would have to invade parts of Kalimdor, in order to secure their basic needs such as farming land. Garrosh was the kind of leader willing to do anything for his people, and that was why Thrall chose him. After his ascendance to the position of war chief, a lot of players will point out that Garrosh killed Karen. But remember, before you judge Garrosh too harshly in this situation, that Karen came into Orgrimmar accusing Garrosh of wholesale genocide. All Garrosh has as an orc is his pride, and his attempts to be a better man than his father was. So it's natural that Karen struck a nerve with Garrosh. It was also Karen who demanded a duel to settle the situation, but it was Garrosh who suggested they do it by the old rules of combat, which meant death for one of them. Garrosh was of the old horde, and this is how he knew to defend his honor. Karen was also more than happy to duel in this manner. In the book, it's made very clear that Karen intended to deliver the killing blow to Garrosh before Magatha's poison froze up Karen. Everyone seems to hate Garrosh for his actions, but Karen's pride pushed him into a duel as much as Garrosh's did. During Cataclysm questing is where we as players get to see some of these changes to Garrosh's character, more down the path that I thought Blizzard was taking him. Garrosh shows disgust for Sylvanas' actions, and compassion during the invasion of Stone Talon, where it is made very clear that Garrosh believes the Horde needs the lands of Ashenvale and Stone Talon to survive, but he doesn't want to see them win from the Alliance with underhanded tactics and doesn't believe in the mass murder of members of the Alliance. Alliance players do not get this perspective when they level through these zones. All they see is the Horde as a ruthless invading force, when in reality, Garrosh needs these lands to sustain his people and tries to avoid the worst side of war. While Garrosh was not able to stop the bombing of Ashenvale, he was outraged by the incident. It seemed to me that Garrosh was being groomed by Blizzard to become a better kind of war chief, the kind that Thrall couldn't be. Garrosh put the survival of his people first and foremost, and refused to bend to the Alliance in times when he felt it would hurt his people. I didn't see Garrosh, post-Wrath of the Lich King, as a leader incapable of making peace with the Alliance, but rather, he would come away from the peace table giving in less to Varian, but maybe eventually earning Varian's respect through his tough nature. I now take issue with where Blizzard is going with Garrosh's character during the Mist of Pandaria expansion. Blizzard seems to be incapable of writing more dynamic characters than the basic fantasy tropes. They tried so very hard to make us hate Illidan, instead of having us view him as an anti-hero, even though he was always trying to do what was best for his own people. Garrosh falls very much into this area. I'm afraid of what we're going to get as Garrosh's character growth during the Mist of Pandaria, which will be likely backwards. It is fairly clearly implied that Garrosh is going to commit some pretty foul war crimes, once war breaks out between the Alliance and the Horde. It is also likely clear that Garrosh will be behind the invasion of Theramore. A friend of mine pitched an idea of how to make us hate Garrosh, and it sadly makes me think this is the way that Blizzard is going to go. Garrosh might capture Jaina during the invasion of Theramore, and then very publicly execute her late in the Pandarian expansion. There has also been some speculation that Garrosh might drink the blood of a demon, following in the same kind of footsteps that his father did. For me, this is the worst kind of character choice, because Garrosh has been, if nothing, very afraid of following in his father's own footsteps. And I see Garrosh drinking the blood of a demon as a very big reversal of his character. So, Blizzard, Creative, and Quest Team, step into my office for a moment. Let's talk about how we could actually make the story interesting, instead of giving Garrosh a reboot in character and making him a bloodthirsty savage who learned nothing from Sourfang, which, sadly, is what I know you're planning. We as players can handle an enemy that is not so clear-cut evil. Dethroning Garrosh seems pretty set in stone as a long-term plan for Pandaria. But do we really have to stoop so uncreative as just to try to morph him into a tyrant, like you tried with Illidan? I would really like to see Garrosh commit some vile acts, but always have him seem, at least in his own head, convinced that they're the best for the Horde. Please don't give him a kind of I do what I want attitude. Let him sack Theramore, but give him a reason to need Theramore. Other leaders can express misgivings about Garrosh's plans, but never make Garrosh willingly aware that he's doing outright evil things. Make every mistake that he makes a mistake he makes for the Horde. Also, don't kill him. Please, just make him step down. And don't return Thrall to the head of the Horde. Thrall can help unseat Garrosh, but put Vol'jin or Sourfang in charge of the Horde. Thrall has always been a weak and mealy leader of the Horde, and in Cataclysm he became more of a character belonging to no real faction, like Jaina. You want to siege Orgrimmar? Fine. And you want to remove Garrosh? Sure. But please try to make it a little less cut and dry than good and bad, and please do not go backward on the forward progress you've made with Garrosh's character. I've seen online speculation that you intend to corrupt Garrosh. That's fine, but do it with the old gods, and not the Burning Legion. I, as a student of lore, just cannot accept that Garrosh would make any kind of deal with the demon horde. So, in wrapping up, let me start my grassroots organization now. Sourfang for War Chief in 2014. The kind of tough old SOB who will cleave any trouble in half.